I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact focused on personal growth, my Knowledge Workbook series and Creative Healing course can help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about protecting your heart from premature exclusivity. So, a lot of times what I see with dating and relationships is that people will get so excited about meeting somebody new that they're interested in that they will focus on how they feel. I really like this person. I keep thinking about them. I think about them nonstop. I feel alive when I talk to this person. It feels so great and amazing. That's great. That's what Mother Nature intended for us to do, is to feel those feelings of strong attraction and desire to talk to somebody. But what you have to understand is that there's a big difference between attraction and lust and getting to know somebody new and locking them down or getting into an exclusive relationship too quickly. Because if you do that, you're going to wind up with a broken heart. In my opinion, a lot of the jumping into the relationship with these essentially strangers is tied to being insecure, not having your needs met in your childhood, and so all of a sudden your unconscious is fantasizing about this magical person to come along and meet all those needs that you didn't get met when you were little. And the more neglect that you had, the more likely you are going to be into jumping into something new that you just met. But you have to protect yourself because, when you're talking to somebody new, you don't know how much integrity they have. You don't know their internal structure, what drives them, what they will do if they have a conscience, if they follow their conscience, or will they just do whatever they want to use people? They might have personality disorders. So you have to really learn to vet the people that you're dating, okay? And for many of you who are like, I want someone who's secure, I hear that all the time. You better be secure. In my opinion, and Margaret's too, not many people are really secure. I think Margaret would say about 20% are really secure. Now, of course, it's like a spectrum, okay? And sometimes we're higher on it and sometimes we're lower on it. And we're not saying that people are completely insecure if they're not in that 20%. But the people that are really, truly conscious, secure, had an amazing childhood, I think it's a lot less than you realize. And so what happens with you guys that I see all the time is that when things are easy, you look secure. But when things get difficult, now you're really being tested. Now those issues are coming out and you become like a different person. That's not just you. It's the people that you're dating. It's a lot of the people in the dating pool. So you have to be careful when you're attaching to people you don't really know. You don't do the work on yourself, you're going to find yourself doing this the rest of your life. I'm telling you guys, if you don't listen and do the work now, you're going to be on the channel in the future, and the second time around you'll be doing the workbooks or the creative healing course, because I see it all the time. At this point, because I've been doing this so long, it probably happens every single week where people are coming back to me with a new breakup, that they got their ex back, they didn't do the work, and now they're willing to do the work. They gave up on themselves, they gave up on the personal growth, they didn't put themselves on probation like we suggest to you guys to do. So it's not fair because you grew up in a home where you didn't get a lot of love or attention, and you didn't see what a great relationship looked like with your parents. It's not fair. I get it. I didn't either. Both my parents were married 3 times. And My mom and my dad split up when I was a baby, year and a half old, and there was a lot of contentious fighting and arguing there. And then with my stepdads, one of them was drinking all the time, doing other things that I won't mention, and my second stepdad drinking all the time, bipolar, flipping the furniture over, screaming and yelling. The neighbors could hear him, all kinds of crazy behavior. He was even worse. But I always had a desire to understand relationships and to help people because I know what that felt like. And so I really want you guys to learn this stuff because it wasn't available for me. So I want you to have the information and change your life. But one of the things you have to do in order to have that healthy dynamic or relationship is to be able to assess before you jump in. Like, look before you leap, right? You better look to see, how's that water temperature? How deep is the water? Is there sharks in there? Because when it comes to dating, there are sharks in there. The water is a lot deeper than you realize. You're going to get caught up in the undertow. The water could be freezing. There are going to be jellyfish. There's all kinds of things. And all the fish in the sea aren't so great. So please slow down when you're meeting somebody new. You want to be able to recognize red flags of the people that you're dating. You don't want to get caught up in the excitement of those unmet needs and their love bombing, because a lot of people are going to love bomb and tell you wonderful, amazing things in the beginning that get you hooked, and then they leave you out to dry, right? Or they drop you in the bucket and then they go find another fish. So I've got a good email coaching that talks about this, because this guy was talking to this woman. They're both in their 20s. They met online, and they're in that talking stage. So what happens in that talking stage, right? Like, technically, you can do whatever you want, right? I mean, technically, you can talk to other people. You can go out with other people. You can hook up with other people. However, if you do that, and you wind up with the person that you were talking to, a lot of times it comes back to bite you. I've seen it time and time again where technically you were allowed to do whatever you want, but then it's like, uh-oh, they find out, and now they hold that against you, and they don't trust you for the entire relationship, right? But like in this, well, let me just get into this situation here. He says, one problem was my breach of her trust and the way I became avoidant once we went long distance again. So they had met locally. He had to go long distance, but I'll just read in his own words what he said he did. Before we had our first date, I had a one-night stand with a stranger. She later asked me, and I shared everything. Okay, so think about it. You're in this talking stage. Okay, imagine, put yourself in this situation. You're talking to somebody, you really like them, it's going really well. They're telling you they want a future, they can't wait to see you, they can't wait to get to know you, and then they hook up with a stranger for a one-night stand. How are you going to feel? Not good. Technically, were they allowed to do it? Yeah. But was it right? Not really. Not when you're leading someone on, and I'll tell you more here. He says, I believed exclusivity began after we met in person, but she felt we had already established it during our conversation about intentions, where I told her I was pursuing a serious exclusive relationship. So who do you think is more right here? Leave a comment. Who do you think is more right here? Technically, they weren't together. They hadn't even met in person yet. But this is what I'm talking about with premature exclusivity. Why are you talking about any of this stuff? Go on a date. You don't know if they are even the person in the pictures. Go out, have fun with them, and see what it's like before you're even discussing stuff like that. I hear guys are messaging women online about, I want to have your baby, when they've never even met. And ladies, you can agree with this in the comments, because I know you hear it all the time. Guys, you know how little value that's projecting to people when you're saying, I will have a baby with you even though I don't know you. It's like saying, I have no value and I'll take anything that I can get. Like, it's sad. Do not do that. Like, somebody with high value is going to be like, I need to get to know you. I need to see what kind of a person you are. I need to see if we get along well, if we could have a relationship together. Not, hey, you're so pretty. I want to have your baby. I have heard that so many times over the years. It's sad. But that is reflective of your low self-esteem. Okay? So, who do you think is right here? To me, she has a bigger point. Okay? Yes, he technically didn't do anything wrong, but because they weren't exclusive and they hadn't even gone on a date, but he told her he had the intention of pursuing a serious exclusive relationship. And so that's kind of misleading her. And then just to go out and hook up with a stranger. I wouldn't trust him. Would you trust him after somebody did that to you? That's the point, is that put yourself in her shoes in this situation. Would you trust him? Probably not. Some people wouldn't care. She had even ended her friends with benefits based on that understanding, so my actions hurt her. Okay, so it makes it even worse. So she had a friends with benefits, something on the side that wasn't really pursuing. She gave that up, ended it, so she could be exclusive with him. So I don't think she should have done that until they met either. I think it should have been like, okay, let's meet and see how it goes. But now she's extra hurt because she's like, well, you told me you wanted exclusivity. So he kind of like misled her. And maybe he did that so she would stop hooking up with that other guy or girl. I don't know. Although she decided it was surmountable, the trust issue remained underneath. When we went long distance in the summer, my communication slipped, partly from work focus and partly from my own avoidant tendencies. I sometimes withdraw for hours, even during moments of vulnerability. For example, she reached out in an intimate way and I didn't respond, and she read it as a lack of sincerity or desire. Okay, so it sounds like she was wanting some intimacy over the phone, and he didn't respond. And you said she read it as a lack of sincerity or desire. I'm pretty sure it was a lack of sincerity or desire here, buddy. You didn't say anything otherwise. You didn't say, but I was working. No, you're kind of saying, well, I was avoidant and focused on work. So, yeah. Sounds like she was right. This reinforced the insecurity that began with the initial breach and left her struggling to feel secure. I mean, she's being vulnerable. She's trying to be intimate. You guys are long distance. She's already allowed a major slip up in the get-go. Another problem was her anxiety. From early in the relationship, she often struggled to believe my love or sincerity was genuine. Well, of course. Because of what you did. The way you're phrasing it, it makes me feel like you're saying this is her problem. She struggled with it. She struggled to believe my love or sincerity was genuine. You told her you wanted an intimate, serious, monogamous relationship, and then you went out and had a one-night stand after she ended her friends with benefits to try and be exclusive with you. Now, whether or not that was the right way to go about things, is a whole nother story, but that's the way you went with it. She searched for hidden flaws or signs of dishonesty in extreme ways. But that is a result of what you did. For example, she went through my entire social media following and used reverse image searches on my photos to look for dating apps and drilled my roommate with detailed questions about my past relationships and flaws. She was traumatized by what you did. And this is what happens when you don't really know somebody and when you rush into a relationship. Because what else does she have to base her decision on. Now she's vulnerable, attached to somebody who's hurt her that she doesn't really know and what you're capable of. And you're long distance, not replying to her text messages. Where could you be? What could you be doing? You've done things before. You see, like, I totally understand why someone would be having a hard time here. Why this behavior sometimes felt intrusive, I also understood it came from her anxiety and fear of being hurt. I tried to balance it by being consistent, reassuring, and showing her affection, which worked well when we were physically together, but once we went long distance and my communication became less steady, her anxiety escalated. You're giving me a mixed message here. I'm a little confused because at the start of this, you said you were taking a long time to respond, but now you're saying, well, I was consistent, reassuring and showing her affection until we went long distance, and then I was not continuously replying. So it's like, okay, so you were good in that brief time that you were together, but once you went long distance where she probably needed extra reassurance, you were extra avoidant. Small lapses in contact fed into her doubts, and eventually she began to devalue the relationship itself. She told me she had grown bitter about the earlier breach of trust and was close to feeling contempt, which is what we talk about with John Gottman and the Four Horsemen. You may have heard us talk about that many times on the channel. Her anxiety made it difficult for her to feel secure, and once combined with the trust issues, it eroded the foundation of our relationship. I mean, it all makes sense if you really look at her perspective. She listed many reasons, including inconsistent communication and revisiting of past comments in ways that reinforced her doubts. She said it ultimately came back to the one-night stand from before our first date. In her view, the best case was that I hadn't considered exclusivity and was sexually opportunistic. Worst case, I had knowingly broken exclusivity and cheated. Either way, she couldn't let go of the resentment. She told me she was sorry, but that she had devalued the relationship too much for there to be a way back. Despite several conversations afterward, I've come to understand her reasons, and now we have been in no contact for about a week. I recently found out I'll be in her area later this year, and she doesn't know it yet. I hope this would be a good chance to reconnect, since our relationship was strongest when we were together in person. I'd like your advice on whether maintaining no contact is the best approach, and if I should give her space to potentially reattract her. I'd also like to know how to invite her out in a low-pressure way. Okay, so I think you guys rushed into very serious conversations too soon, which put a lot of pressure on the situation. It made her feel very attached to you, which I think was probably part of your goal here in getting her to end that friends with benefits, but then you went out and friend a stranger with benefits. And so if you put yourself in her shoes, and it was kind of surprising that it was so hard for you to do this. You had to have several conversations to figure this out. I'm pretty sure if she had said to you that night, well, how would you like it if I go sleep with somebody else right now? You would have figured out real quick why it was wrong. Okay? So the fact that you really struggled, that tells me that you're probably more avoidant than you realize. And you do realize that you're avoidant here. But, you guys got to take your time to get to know somebody because you jumped into this is a big reason why this fell apart. Had you said, I really like talking to you, but, let's go on a date before we even think about anything else. You could have hooked up with whoever you wanted. She could have kept hooking up with her friends with that benefits. You could have gone out on a bunch of dates and seen if you were a good fit for each other. But you rushed things where now deep trust has come into the picture. And then when you went long distance, you were not really conscious of her needs, and sounds like you just didn't reply to her message when she was trying to be intimate, and you were taking your time to reply. And so I mean, of course she's going to get frustrated and fed up and resentful in this situation. I think most people would. But if you take your time and you don't discuss these things, before you've even gone on a first date, hey, I know I want to give a baby to someone and I know I haven't met you yet, but it could be you. Don't be like that, guys. So many ladies, please leave a comment how often that has happened to you. It just shows you don't really love yourself or respect yourself, and that you're basing your value just on somebody's appearance. Think about it. You're basing your whole value and worth as a human being based on that somebody's attractive. You guys aren't going to get very far in your relationships if you have that mindset. That's an extremely immature mindset that's not really thinking about the day in, day out struggles of life, of commitment, of connection, of character. It's just, hey, you're pretty. I mean, I get, yeah, who doesn't like to find somebody that they're attracted to? But, you got to want to look beyond that and see that you're a good fit. And you got to work through your own issues, too. Because people that haven't had their needs met are the ones that are more often jumping into things prematurely, not really looking to see those red flags, not looking to see if there's a genuine connection with somebody. This is why I'm always telling you guys, do the work, do the work, do the work, do the work, because this stuff becomes very clear and you're going to be very conscious in your intent and how you handle your relationships and your love life, and you'd be less likely to have jumped into something like this or jumped into bed with a stranger, because obviously there are risks with that, sometimes extreme health risks, but right now I would just leave her alone. She's hurt, she's angry, she doesn't see this turning around right now. In time, she could start to miss you, right? You're going to be in that town. There'll probably be a disturbance in the force, and then she'll reach out and you casually invite her out, say it's great to hear from you, and say, look, we put so much pressure on things. I don't want to do that. I just want to go out and have fun and spend some time with you. I feel like we rushed into things, and I know I made some mistakes and I really regret it, but I would love to just go out and have some fun if you're willing to do that. And then you need to think about how you're going to show up and realize that you're going to have to be extra careful and conscious with this person because you hurt them. So guys, when you're dating somebody new, just because you're not exclusive, you do want to consider these things, because I see a lot of similar things come up later on in the relationship because this stuff that you did before you were exclusive. Is it fair? I mean, it's tough to say. Is it a black and white answer? I guess the way to look at it is, how would you feel if somebody did it to you? And that gives you a clearer picture in a case-by-case situation. All right. Hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get my help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. And of course, you can get my creative healing course and my workbooks only on my website. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and I will talk with you soon.